Krishna. So today we have announced the process of meditation, yeah? Yeah. So, as you might know, the Hare Krishna movement, our movement, is based on a tradition which is coming from the Vedas. And in the Vedas there is, it is given different processes for understanding the spiritual world. One of the processes is the process of yoga. Traditionally, yoga is divided in a few steps. It's actually, to be more precise, it's 8 steps. It's called Ashtanga. Ashta means 8 in Sanskrit, and Anga means 8 parts, 8 branches. So the Ashtanga Yoga is divided in in 8 parts. The first part, the first 2 parts, they are called Yama and Niyama. So Yama means the things you must do, and Niyama is the things you are not allowed to do. So this is the first 2 steps in the yoga process. And in the Yama, of course, this is a little bit different in different traditions of yoga, but in generally it is advised one raises up early in the morning, for instance, that one takes shower every morning, etc. There is many. We're not going to enumerate them. Niyama, it means the things which are forbidden. Like if one is practicing yoga, eating of meat, for instance, is forbidden. Intoxication. And why it is forbidden is not just because they like to forbid things, but because it will disturb the process of yoga. Then after this Yama and Niyama, it comes Asana. Asana, like now I'm sitting in one Asana, which has different names. Sometimes it's called the lotus position, but cross-legged position. It's a very simple asana. There is many asanas in yoga. Pranayama, control of the breathing. Pranayama is interesting because we are, to a great extent, and we're going to come back to this when we speak about meditation, we are to a great extent controlled by our thoughts. Like you go out in the morning and everything looks wonderful. You go out in a bad mood. Everybody and everything looks horrible. Even if it's sunshine, you'll be irritated. You say, it's too much sun. So, this pranayama, it's a physical process of breathing, controlling the breathing in such a way that one is able to control one's thoughts. Actually, this is becoming very common nowadays. Like, if you go on the internet and you look, what shall I do if I have anxiety? I mean, they tell you, the first line, you should breathe. You should breathe very slow. And, I think they say 4-7-3 or something. They say 4 seconds breathing in, 7 holding, and 3 breathing out. Anyway, they give certain numbers. But the breathing, it's becoming understood that it influences our mind and our mood. So this pranayama is basic one of the parts of this Ashtanga Yoga. Then we have the next process is, it's called Pratyahara. And pratyahara, pratyahara, it means formally withdrawing. And if I translate that in modern terms, it means one has to create one's own space. So like in the old days, thousands of years ago, then they were advised you should go to the forest, or you should go to the mountains, or you should go to the countryside. You should go away from places where there's a lot of vegetation, you know, where there is cars and fumes and noise. So you cut yourself a little bit off the turmoil of the world. You create your own space. And then we coming now, I mean, these are like the preparatory steps for yoga, and then it comes more the more active processes, you know, and then this is dharana, and then it comes dhyana. So dhyana is what we're going to speak about today, and this means meditation. And there is Bhagavad Gita. In Bhagavad Gita, there is one verse which explains how the wrong meditation can bring us in a lot of trouble. So I'm going to read this verse and speak a little bit about it, and then we're going to see what is the alternative to that. Yeah? So the Bhagavad Gita is a conversation between Krishna and Arjuna on the battlefield. You see here, this is Lord Krishna, and this is Arjuna. And because there was going to be an enormous battle, I don't know sometimes how they count in the old scriptures, but they say it's 16 million people fighting on one battlefield. So I don't know. But it was many people, probably over 1 million or 2 million. So it was an enormous battle. And because in one battle people get killed, they have to, die, so to say. It raised this discussion between Krishna and Arjuna. Actually, I mean, what is happening? What is happening here? We are fighting. People are going to be killed. What is going on here? So Krishna starts to explain, and is here in this chapter, which we're going to read, second chapter, the difference between the body and the soul. So Krishna explains to Arjuna, you will see people dying, but they are not actually dying. Just their bodies are dying. Inside the body, there is the real important living entity, which in Sanskrit is called the Atma. And this Atma, Krishna explains the different qualities of the Atma, like it has no beginning, it has no end. It is powerful. It's more powerful than hundreds of suns. And one of the characteristics of this Atma is that this Atma is full of bliss. So bliss, it's maybe a word which we don't use so much in modern English, but bliss means actually happiness. So the soul is naturally happy. There is this natural happiness inside ourselves, because the soul is actually our real self. So Krishna explains a little bit how the soul, which is originally eternal and full of knowledge and full of bliss, soul gets entangled into this material world and gets entangled in so much suffering, and how finally the soul has to accept the body and die. So this is a little bit. So Krishna starts on one side. He explains how we got here, And then gradually during the whole Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is going to explain how to get out of this suffering condition of the material world. Okay? So let me see. So you can repeat, okay, I'm just going to say one prayer and you can repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So now I'm going to read the words of the verse and you can please repeat after me. Jayato, Jayato, Vishayan,
Vishayan,
Pumsa,
Pumsa,
Sangash,
Sangash,
Teshu,
Teshu,
Upajayate,
Upajayate,
Sangat,
Sangat,
Sanjayate,
Sanjayate,
Kama,
Kama,
Kamat,
Kama,
Krodha,
Krodha,
Abhijayate.
Abhijayate.
And now I read the Sanskrit because you don't have the verse here. So, Jayato Vishayam Pumsa Sangasteshu Pajayate Sangat Sanjayate Kama Kamat Krudo Vijayate. Now we're going to read the English translation. Jayata, while contemplating. Contemplating is the same as meditation. Vishayan,
Vishayan,
sense objects.
sense objects.
Pumsa,
Pumsa,
of a person.
of a person.
Sangha,
Sangha,
attachment.
attachment.
Teshu,
Teshu,
in the sense objects.
in sense objects.
Upajayate,
Upajayate,
develops.
develops.
Sangat,
Sangat,
from attachment.
from attachment.
Sanjayate,
Sanjayate,
develops.
develops.
Kama,
Kama,
desire.
desire.
Kamat,
Kama,
from desire.
from desire.
Krodha,
Krodha,
anger.
anger.
Abhijayate.
Abhijayate.
So the translation, while contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment for them, and from such attachment, lust develops, and from lust, anger arises. So you can repeat after me the translation. While contemplating the objects of the senses,
The objects of the senses.
a person develops attachment for them,
A person develops attachments for them.
and from such attachment,
And from such attachment,
lust develops,
lust develops.
and from lust, anger arises.
And from lust, anger.
So here we can actually make the first question. I mean, why does anger come from lust? You should be very happy. No, it comes because lust can never be satisfied. Yeah. So, because it can never be satisfied, and we have it, we become angry, we become upset. So, but it will be more closely explained. So I read the purport which Srila Prabhupada wrote. One who is not Krishna conscious is subject to material desires while contemplating the objects of the senses. The senses require real engagements, and if they are not engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, they will certainly seek engagement in the service of materialism. So, I mean, like for instance, if you study the advertisement industry, what is the goal of the advertisement industry? It's to present you things in such a way so that even all of us, without thinking, we think, I must have this. You go through a window of a shop. I mean, when I say you, I don't mean you. I mean, people go through a shop, they look in the window, and they think, oh, this is so beautiful. I must have this, because if I have this, my life will be so much better. So this is based on this principle that one sees something, contemplates, looks at, and by doing that, one develops attachment. Like sometimes people may see things, one day, and then they go home, and they meditate on it, and they think, I must have this. This dress will make me happy. And then they go back the next day and buy it. So this is how the material world works. One contemplates things, one looks at different things, and then one meditates on them, and meditates on them in such a way that we think that these things will make us happy, and we must have them. So this is important to understand, because in order to make spiritual advancement, one has to, to stop this meditation on the objects of the senses. And of course, it's very difficult to stop this meditation artificially, because wherever we look, we are seeing things. Then we have to go like this, You don't see anything, you cannot hear anything, you don't taste anything. You have to completely shut off your senses. This is not possible. And also the reason why it is not possible to shut off the senses, it's because these senses are not just in our material body. We have these 5 senses, the eyes, the hearing, the taste, the smell. So we have these senses, and we cannot just suffocate them, because these senses, they exist in the body, like organs, but they exist also within the soul. So on the deepest level of our being, we have senses. So therefore, it is not possible to cut off everything from this material world and, just becoming like empty. This is not possible. So the Bhagavad Gita will give us an alternative method to that, which is engaging our senses in spiritual activities. So as Srila Prabhupada says here, if the senses are not engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, they will certainly seek engagement in the service of materialism. So in the material world, everyone, including Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, to say nothing of other demigods in the heavenly planets, is subject to the influence of sense objects. And the only method to get out of this puzzle of material existence is to become Krishna conscious. So in the process of Krishna conscious, our process, it is that instead of using our senses to interact with the material world, we try to use our senses to interact with the spiritual world. So instead of looking at a material picture, we can look at the picture of Krishna. Instead of listening to a material sound, we can listen to transcendental mantras, like the Hare Krishna mantra or Krishna's name. Instead of tasting material food, like here we have a process which you probably will see on this program today, that everything that we eat is offered to Krishna, and it's cooked under with a special consciousness. Food is not tasted, for instance. We offer it to Krishna, and then instead of just being a material taste, it becomes a spiritual taste. It becomes spiritualized. So our process is to utilize our senses to interact with spiritual objects. So Srila Prabhupada mentions here Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma. Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, they are the most elevated beings. One can say, after Krishna, Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, they are the most elevated beings. According to the Vedic way of seeing the universe, it's not only that there is God and humans, but there is a whole range of other beings between God and us. And we normally call them in English demigods, or in Sanskrit we call them devas. So they exist in this world, but they are more elevated than human beings, but they are not God. Somewhere in between. Sometimes when I try to explain in the schools, when I'm speaking about Hinduism, I say that these beings, these devas, it's a little bit like in the old Nordic mythology. You know, we had Valhalla with Udan. One was in charge of the weather, other one was in charge of the wind. There was the god of the sun, etc. There was all these different gods, or as we call them, demigods. So they take care of different functions of nature. And in the Hinduism is very similar. There is Indra, who takes care of the weather, the rain, lightning, the clouds. There is another demigod, Vayu, who takes care of the wind. There is Surya, the sun, is said to be a personality. There is Soma, who is the moon. There is actually millions, 33 million they say, 33 million of demigods. So they are the highest beings in this material world, but even they became disturbed because of contemplating the objects of the senses. So the example is given here. Lord Shiva, he was in deep meditation, but when Parvati is the wife of Lord Shiva, she agitated him for sense pleasure, and he agreed to the proposal, and as a result, Kartikeya was born. So Lord Shiva was meditating, as he is usually doing, is meditating, and somehow his wife approached him, and even if he was in deep meditation, he became disturbed. And as a consequence of this, it's said here, Kartikeya was born. Kartikeya is the son of Lord Shiva, is the god of war. On the other side, when Haridas Thakur was a young devotee of the Lord, he was similarly lured by the incarnation of Maya Devi. So Maya Devi is the illusory energy. As I was explaining a little bit earlier, a lot of our perception of this world, it depends on our internal state. Our mood, the way our deeper feelings are, in the same way we perceive the world. So Maya Devi is a servant of Lord Krishna, and her function is to keep the living entities in illusion. So illusion means one is taking, one is taking what is not real for real. This is illusion. So Maya Devi, her function is to keep the living entities in illusion. So this Haridas Thakur was a great devotee of Krishna, and he is known in our tradition for being the Nam Acharya. So he is the personality who he attained the perfection in the chanting of Hare Krishna mantra. And he actually did nothing else. He chanted 24 hours. I don't know if he slept, but all his waking time he was chanting constantly. So he attained the perfection of this on the chanting of Hare Krishna mantra. So he was meditating in the forest, and he was chanting this Hare Krishna mantra, and the people from the local government, they send a woman to try to break his meditation. So there was some politics. In the previous times in India, sages, they were very powerful. The sage would come to a village and they would say things and people would do them without question. They were very respected as great authorities. So the people in the village, they didn't want this devotee, Haridas Thakur, to become influential. So therefore, they want to disturb his yoga practice. And therefore, they send this lady, I don't know if she has a name, but I don't think it is said her name, but she was sent by these people to disturb him. So here Srila Prabhupada writes, when Haridas Thakur was a young devotee of the Lord, he was similarly allured by the incarnation of Maya Devi. But Haridas Thakur easily passed the test because of his unalloyed devotion to Lord Krishna. So we here in Bhagavad Gita, a little bit further on, it is explained the process of reincarnation. So I have mentioned a little bit, but you probably already have heard before. We have a material body, but ultimately we are a spirit soul. So the question always comes, what happens with the spirit soul when the spiritual soul leaves the body? So in the Indian philosophy, in the Vedic texts, one explains that there is something called karma, the law of karma. And this law of karma, the law of karma acts in such a way that whatever consciousness, whatever mood, whatever character we develop in this life, it continues in the next life. So it's not that when we die, when we leave the body, everything is lost. Whatever we have developed in this life, either for the good or for the bad, that goes with us for the next life. And what is specifically important there, and which is one of the goals of yoga, is that one learns how to focus on the proper, on the proper consciousness at the time of death. So it's actually one verse here in Bhagavad Gita says, whatever one thinks at the time of death, that one will attain without fail. So it's why people in Hinduism, they would never have a dog. Because, if you leave a dog for many years and then you just die, and you happen to think about the dog, then one goes to the body of a dog. Another interesting thing is normally men, when they die, they become a woman in next life. They think about their wife. The wife thinks about the husband. She becomes a man. So the thoughts at the time of death, they decide our destination. There is also another beautiful verse in Bhagavad Gita which says that as the wind goes over a rose garden and carries the smell, maybe you are few meters, 10 or 20 meters, and you feel the smell of the roses. In the same way, the consciousness of the spirit soul carries him to the next body. In the same way as the wind carries the smell, the consciousness carries the soul to the next body. So, in Krishna consciousness, different practices we have of devotional service, which we did some of them. We chanted the Hare Krishna mantra. We chanted Shri Krishna Chaitanya mantra. They are going to offer prasadam to us after the program. We're going to sing for Krishna. We look at the images of Krishna. All these different activities that we do, what they do, they create impressions. And if we do it continuously, these impressions at one time, they'll become dominating in our consciousness. So we'll not be anymore under the illusory energy, but will be directly connected to Krishna. Actually, I have read one book which was given to me by a friend of mine who is a sannyasi in Russia, Bhaktivigyana Maharaj. And this is about a Christian monk. And actually this older form of orthodoxy, it's actually many things similar with Hinduism and with Krishna consciousness. And one of them is the chanting of mantra. We always come back to these mantras. So this monk, he started to chant. They don't say exactly the mantra. The book is in English, so this mantra was probably in Russian or Old Greek or something. So he was chanting the Jesus mantra. And first, he was repeating it with his mouth. And, while he was walking from village to village. He was like a monk, wandering monk. And he was always recitating this mantra. After some time, what happened is that not only he recitated the mantra, but this mantra was already going on all the time within his mind. It's quite interesting. So first one repeats, like in the Hare Krishna movement, one of the most important things is the chanting of Hare Krishna mantra. And by chanting, by repeating the Hare Krishna mantra, first one does it, orally, but gradually this mantra becomes, it goes on the subtle level within the mind and within the heart. And even when one is doing other things, this mantra is still going on. So, what is the advantage of this? The advantage of this is that if one has come to such a state, at the time of death, one will automatically think about Krishna. So instead of going into another body in this material world, one will go to the spiritual world. So this was about Haridas Thakur. So he attained perfection in chanting the holy name. And perfection means that one is continuously, perfection in chanting Hare Krishna, it means one is continuously chanting. Even when you sleep, when you go to bed, it continues. Because if you chant the whole day, it just continues automatically the whole night. If one has attained the perfection in chanting. So as illustrated in the above mentioned verse of Sri Yamunacharya, a sincere devotee of the Lord shuns it means, it disregards, it doesn't care, all material sense enjoyment due to his higher taste for spiritual enjoyment in the association of the Lord. That is the secret of success. Little sentence. but very powerful. This is the secret of success. So when one starts to associate with Krishna and to perform devotional service, one starts to understand this is an enjoyment of a higher dimension. Because in the material world, there is enjoyment in the material world, but first, this enjoyment is always temporary. It has a beginning and an end, and it's always imperfect. Like if you eat some food, it could always be a little bit better. And not only that, you always have to eat after some time. So satisfaction of the senses has to be, it's not eternal. You have to repeat it. You eat once, you eat always. Or you want to look at something beautiful or smell something beautiful, or any activity you perform for satisfaction of the senses. They have a beginning and an end. So therefore one is always looking for this kind of satisfaction. In the spiritual world, it is not like that. In the spiritual world, instead of going from moment of satisfaction to moment of satisfaction, one is building up. So you chant Hare Krishna today, and chanting Hare Krishna, some people think it's it's an austerity, but it's actually very joyful, because when you're chanting Hare Krishna, you're associating with Krishna, and Krishna is all blissful, so our heart also becomes full of bliss. But what happens is, like whatever process we do in devotional service, we do it today, and we will build it up on the next day. So it's continuous. It's not this of course there is little wavering there. But in general, the process of devotional service, whatever we do, it's ever increasing and it's joyful. So this is the secret of success. One who is not therefore in Krishna consciousness, however powerful he may be in controlling his senses by artificial repression, is sure ultimately to fail, for the slightest thought of sense pleasure will agitate him to gratify his senses. So these processes of yoga and meditation, which are based on restriction of the senses, they are doomed to fail. Because the senses are spiritual, the senses are a part of the soul, and you cannot suffocate them. They will always pop up. So one tries to meditate, one tries to cut oneself from the objects of the senses, and even by the power of will, one may be able to do that for a long time. But ultimately, because the senses are not engaged and they are not satisfied, one will fall down. And the Vedic literatures are full of sages who are meditating for ages, and I mean ages, I mean millions of years, under very difficult conditions, and then something little happened, and they fall down. All the work they had done, all this meditation. But on the other side, if one engaged our senses, the senses of the soul, in the service of Lord Krishna, this activity becomes spiritual. And because it's a spiritual activity, and the soul is also spiritual, and Krishna is spiritual, Krishna is full of bliss, we are also full of bliss, then all these characteristics of the soul and characteristics of Krishna, they all become enhanced, and we actually experience full satisfaction. So I'm going to stop here. You can make any comments or questions if you like.
Yeah, I was a little curious about this, what we talked about in the first, before we started the lecture actually, and this prayers for Radha Madhava. Mm-hmm. And you say we have to go through her. to get to Krishna.
Mhm.
And what would you say is that feminine aspect of reaching to Madhava, Radha? First, is it also the Mahamantra
Yeah.
that brings to her then?
Hare is Radha.
Oh.
It just in Sanskrit they have cases. That means they changed last letter.
Hare
Yeah.
is-
So Hara is a name for Radha, and Hare means O Radha, O Radha, O Krishna.
Okay, I
Mm.
totally missed that. Thank you.
Welcome.
You said that material sense objects are kind of finitive or imperfect and so on. What about a good song? Because you may, hear in your head a good song for like hours.
Yeah.
Does it mean it's also spiritual, or it doesn't have to do with spirituality if it's written by like a mundane person?
I mean, there is material satisfaction. I mean, a good song, you may like to listen it again and again. It's okay, but what we have to understand if we engage in a spiritual process is that any kind of satisfaction which we get in the material world, it will be temporary. So it will have a beginning and an end, and then again we have to endeavor for the same kind of satisfaction. In the spiritual world, the satisfaction is permanent.
Yeah, but how in our world, how do we sense which feelings are spiritual and which are non-spiritual?
You can only sense when you are on an advanced platform. On our level, we generally follow the advice of the scriptures, and by following the advice of the scriptures, we know, in which way we engage ourselves to purify our senses. So the senses are there, but they have to be purified, and the mind has to be purified in order to be able to exercise proper discrimination. Otherwise, the mind is just influenced. The mind is just influenced by the external circumstances, like the breathing. The mind is influenced by the breathing. If you are, you will automatically become agitated. It's such a fine thing, the mind. So it's very susceptible. So in yoga, we have to train the mind to separate what is spiritual and what is material, and that we do that by following the advice of the Shastras. Okay? So, but this is a progressive thing. I mean, one cannot really make advancement in devotional service by repression. You cannot repress your senses. You can try to do that, but it doesn't work. But what is best, and what is the recommended process, it is to develop a higher taste. So like when you have tasted prasadam, you will automatically not want to eat meat, because you have tasted food which is offered to Krishna, and you have tasted the spiritual dimension in that food. There is a verse here, I will find it for you. Neha Bikrama Nashosti. What it is? Neha Bikrama Nashosti, 240. So we're actually quite near. We were on 264. So this is a very beautiful verse. It says, Nehabi kramana shusti pratyavayona vidyati svalpam apyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bayat. So it says, in this endeavor, there is no loss or diminution. Yeah? So once you have attained something, some understanding in devotional service, some realization, maybe you forget it temporarily, but it's not lost. It's always there, and it will come back at the proper moment. And a little advancement on this path can protect one from the dangerous type, from the most dangerous type of fear. There is also another verse here, which I cannot remember right now, but it's also here in the second chapter. And that verse says that, I don't remember the number nor the Sanskrit. That verse says that if you try to repress the senses and cut the senses from the sense objects, that is not permanent. But when you have attained the higher taste, you understand, that stays with you, and yet it will never leave you. You know, once you understand that prasadam is superior to material food, you will never want to go back to the lower taste. You following me, Ilya? I'm not sure. You are? Okay, because you... So satisfied or no?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry I cannot find this verse, but maybe you know it, no? What is it? Attain the higher taste. Just, they escape you. Emma?
Yeah, just I want to confirm what you are talking about. In my experience too, it is the process, and maybe in beginning can be not have so much taste, when after through the practice it's coming, and you can see the difference about if you chant Maha Mantra or if you do other meditation or other mantras. It is different taste and different, if we can use the frequency, it is different how you perceive the body or the senses we have. It is totally different.
It's a completely different energy.
And you can understand. And we know what Maha Mantra is and where we are going if we chant Maha Mantra. We can practice different mantras or maybe different like songs. And where we are going, like Locan Prabhu mentioned, starting and ending. And if we want to practice something, start and end, and we want something else, or maybe we focus to Maha Mantra, and after we know the result and the taste, it is totally different through the practice. Yeah. Thank you.
So shall we end here?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
God bless Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.